Good evening and welcome. My name is Ginger Fay and I am the Global Director of Partnerships here at Appleruth Education. We are thrilled to have you join us this evening, and I'm delighted to be able to welcome our special guest, Kim Lifton, a former journalist. Kim is president and co-founder of the WOW Writing Workshop, which teaches students and educators a simple step-by-step process for writing college essays. And Kim is going to share some of those tips with us and some of the WOW approach with us tonight. So lucky us. We're going to be learning a little bit about all the do's and don'ts of the college essays. And we're thrilled to be able to share some of those tips during this very exciting and stressful time in students' lives. As I mentioned, my name is Ginger. I've worked in college admissions and college counseling for more than 25 years. I have read over 50,000 college essays. So I'm glad to be on with Kim and be able to answer some of your questions and share some good strategies for students and their support team as they dig into this exciting topic. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Kim, for being here. We've told you a little bit about ourselves, so let's find out a little bit about you. We're going to launch a quick poll. We'd just love to know a little bit about who's joining us tonight, if you're a student or a parent or guardian or an educator, and where you are in this process. Are you already in college and doing a transfer application? Are you planning way ahead, or did you find yourself to be a suddenly senior needing to jump into this headlong? So if you can answer the poll in the next couple of minutes, well, seconds really, I should say, we'll get a sense of who is in the audience and we can plan our conversation a little bit more tailored to that audience. So thank you guys for filling that out. And I think we can wrap up the poll and get started. So I want to begin by telling you just a little bit about Appleruth and why we do things like this and why we exist in the first place. So Appleruth has been around for more than 20 years, and it is our mission to help students build their confidence in themselves so that they can build the skills they need to accomplish their goals. We say our motto is building better learners for life, and we take that pretty seriously. We believe that when you change a student's self-belief, you can change their lives, and that's what we're after, is helping students transform themselves through education. So we love to work with students in support of their goals, and we want to be able to offer opportunities for sharing information and ideas really broadly, which is why we do events like this one and get to bring together some really great guest speakers and conversation. In our own work at Appleruth, we do three things. Primarily, we do academic tutoring, working with students from, I would say, late elementary school all the way through college. Our tutors get really excited when they get to revisit some of their fun subjects from back in the day. We do help students who are facing a high stakes admissions test. So if they're applying to high school and doing something like the SHSAT, if they're in New York, or the SSAT or the IC, if they're elsewhere in the country, we obviously help a lot of students with the SAT and the ACT. We help some graduate students or graduate hopefuls with the GRE. And we also do executive function coaching. So that's helping students develop the organizational skills that they need to be able to do their best work. We believe that every student is unique. Tests are standardized, students are not. So if we can be of help to you, we'd be delighted. So feel free to reach out to us, and we're going to share the recording of tonight's presentation with you after the fact. So if you are in the midst of lots of things, don't worry if you're not able to take all the notes that you want. And Kim's going to share some resources with you, and I know you won't want to miss that. But if there are questions that come up along the way, if there are things you want us to dive into, we are going to have time for Q&A at the end. So feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A box as they occur to you, and we will try and cover as many of those as we can in the course of the next hour. I want to mention two things before Kim dives into our topic that we have coming up. One is our Keys to Academic Success webinar series that's coming up in September, which shockingly starts September starting on Thursday, I'm not really quite ready for. But we've got 3 great programs that will help students learn how they learn in order to do their best work. And this dives into Appleroot's pedagogy, which is really based in education, the foundations of educational psychology, figuring out how to make ideas sticky. That is so that you don't just learn something for the test, but you learn it and keep it. So we're going to do a focus on that for the month of September as we all get back into the back to school mode. And I did mention some of you might be finding yourselves to be suddenly seniors and realizing that there are some schools on your list that do require standardized testing, and you might not have planned ahead on that as much as you might have wanted to. If that is you, we have a special program to combine our self-paced online program with a 2-hour countdown class with one of our top tutors. So if this is something that would be helpful to you, if you're applying to a state university in Florida or Georgia or Tennessee, if you're applying to MIT or Georgetown, there are places that still require standardized testing, and lots of places where a strong score can really make the difference in terms of admission and especially in terms of merit scholarship. So if there are ways that we can be helpful to you, we'd be delighted. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Kim, and she's going to walk us through some really good advice, demystifying some of this process of what it is to sit down and try and write your story, and give us some good do's and don'ts tips before the hour is up. So Kim, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Ginger. It's always a pleasure to do something with Appleroot, and I got to tell you guys, Ginger, she's my favorite person to co-present with. So she's not going away because she knows a lot of stuff, and she knows colleges. She used to work at Duke. I don't think you told them that yet. So she knows stuff. And it's always good to have 2 people chit-chatting onto a screen in front of you. So I wanted to start tonight by telling you a little bit about me. Can you switch the screen, please? Forward. Can you hear me, Ginger? Yeah, okay. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about WOW and a little bit about the college essay before we get started. But we've been in business now for almost 15 years. And my business partner, Susan Napo, and I created a 10-step process to help students write an application essay. We've tested it and tweaked it and improved it over the last decade and a half, and it's really rock solid. We use it to work with families, we train professionals. This is all we do. So tonight, we're going to talk about the college essay, which is what we do. We pride ourselves on providing accurate information to our students. We speak at conferences, we stay in the know, we talk to admissions people, but it's really, really important as you start applying to college that you make sure that everything you hear is accurate. And it's very hard to do given the amount of garbage that's out there. There's information that's sort of true. There's information that's true and taken out of context. And there's people who mean well, but they misinterpret things that are said or things that are wanted. So that's very important. And tonight we're going to talk about myths and facts, the do's and don'ts. So I'll dispel some of the myths, share the facts, and give you a taste of our process. I'll take you through the first 4 steps later on in the program. We'll answer your questions. And I've got a giveaway. I don't know if any of you have ever come to any of our stuff for a while, but we always give stuff away. So it's worth it. Okay, move on. What a good place to start. So what's a college essay anyway? The truth is, all it is your story written in your own words and in your own voice. And sometimes when I say that, I even think it's really easy. The truth is, it's not easy because you have to write something about you. And for most of you, you haven't done this type of writing, and it really, really matters. So a college essay at its core is all about reflection. It's a story about you written in your words and your voice. Really, really, really important. And the word you is key, like totally, it's critical. It's not my story you're going to be writing. It's not your high school counselor's story. It's not Ginger's story or Albert, who's doing our tech tonight. And it's not the story that your parents might be telling you it is. If your parents, sorry, but don't tell your children, please, what their story is. The college essay is not supposed to be focused on a trait that someone told you colleges want either. They just want a simple story about you that answers a prompt, shares something meaningful about you, and showcases a trait or characteristics or multiple traits that are important to you or your child. So the students get to pick what the traits are. Any one will do. The essay, as long as it shows reflection, we're all good. So it's important that students don't write an entire college essay about something huge, some great experience that they had. So writing about an entire summer working at camp, first of all, it's going to bore people, and you have 650 words. You have to have a purpose, right? It's about the why. You don't want to write about an entire summer or an entire life being on the swim team. So think of it this way, like one moment, one time, one place in your child's life, something that can be used as an anchor to hold on to the bigger story, and share something that colleges don't know. When I'm done reading a story that a student writes, when an admissions person is done reading a story that a student writes, they want to know something about you. So as the student is writing it, very, very important to consider what it is you want someone to know about you when they're done reading. And the first question to think about is, I'm going to speak to your children right now who are here. Say, what is it that colleges know about me? What is it that I want them to know? And keep those in your head. Think about what they don't know. They don't know how you think. They don't know how an experience might have changed you, transformed you, or just affected you in a little tiny bit. They don't know that. They know the activities that students do. They know where they live. They know if the parents are married, divorced, live together. They know so much, it can get a little creepy. But the student gets to decide what else they want colleges to know. Okay, we can move on now. So tonight, we're going to talk about some of the myths and the facts and the do's and the don'ts, because that was our topic, and it's really quite awesome, especially now as September 1st rolls around the corner. And I'm actually going to a college football game. Like, it's too early for this, right? It's too early, too hot. So the first myth is that college application officers don't read applicants' college essays. Well, I'm going to say that's a bunch of nonsense. You agree, Ginger? Do they
100%.
read
I
essays?
read every single essay that a student ever wrote,
Right.
sometimes more than once. But every single word
Right.
they sent, if a student wrote it down and it was important enough for them to share it, I always read it.
Right. And they wouldn't ask students to do something to waste their time. They want to know, they want that application to pop something else about you that they can't put together from the rest of the application package. All right, next slide, please. So Erica Sanders, she's an institution, actually the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. She's the director of admissions. And a long time ago, I was at a NACAC conference, National Association of College Admissions Counselors, and we know Erica, but she was speaking. And she actually said this: we read each writing opportunity. We want to put it in context with what we see academically. We want it to be specific, different, something we can't find elsewhere in your application. I want to throw something else in there. Different doesn't mean unique. That's a myth. And I don't even know if I put this in the slide presentation or not, but I'm going to address it. And if we get to it again, it doesn't matter because it's something you need to know. So Sean Felton, he's the executive director of undergraduate admissions at Cornell. And he wrote the foreword to our upcoming book, which you can all get in January. It comes out, and I'll give you the book that we have now before the end of the night. But he says that despite what you might believe, I don't have something specific in mind when I review essays. I don't know what I want to read, but I do know I want you to reflect to the best of your ability in an answer to any prompt so I can get to know you a little better as I review your application. To succeed and write an effective essay, which is the real goal, you'll have to keep your story genuine, focusing on traits and characteristics that matter to you, only you, not your mom or dad, older sibling, English teacher. Why are you telling me your story? What do you want me to know when I'm done reading it? What does it demonstrate about you? He says also that he noticed that too many students spend a lot of time trying to sound different or unique. Please don't do that. That's what he wrote. It's a waste of your time. I don't want different. I don't want unique. All I want is to know what makes you the person you are. I want to know what matters to you. I want to know what you care about. I want to know what you dream about. And I actually thought that was important to throw in there because I don't think they want different, even if they use the word different. They just want to know who you are. And by different, I don't think they want a cliche. They don't want you to write about winning a swim meet. They see a lot of that stuff. So if Ginger has anything to add, go ahead, or we'll go on to the
Well, you're going to
next.
quote Sean in a second, so I was trying to get you there.
You were. Well, I can quote someone else. So colleges look for 5 specific traits in college essays. So this is my pet peeve for the season. I've been reading it. I've been reading all these blogs. I've been watching videos of people who are actually considered experts in this field, who have taken something that, you know, really colleges do look for certain traits in their applicant pool. But when they read the college essay, they're not really reading for anything major. They want to know something about you that you want to share with them. You get to pick what that trait is. And what'll happen if a student picks a trait that they think a college wants and they try to write something to that trait, it's certainly not going to be genuine or authentic, and it will get all stilted. It's not going to work if it's not really your trait and if it doesn't mean anything to you. So please don't do that. All right, let's see what I have next. Is it Sean? Okay. I outdid myself here. We can move on.
I think I would
Oh,
just add that if it were true that every admissions officer in the world, or but especially even at any one school, was looking for specific traits when they read their applications, then the whole campus would be filled with people who had those same traits, and that wouldn't be a very dynamic place. That's not the kind of school you visited, right? You visited a college that had lots of different kinds of people there, and so that's what they're looking for, is to build a community, not to have a bunch of people who all have the same things in common. That's not really the way you learn the most.
but you read that. You've seen all that stuff online, and yeah, it makes me crazy, guys. I'm sorry. Because I want you all to have real information. And sometimes I don't think that people even mean some of the stuff that comes out. I think it's just, oh, I read this and I'll put it here. But you have to be really careful. You have to be a really good researcher and know where to go to get the good information. So, all right, we'll move on now. So the essay must be perfect. I don't think so, guys. 17-year-olds aren't perfect. Neither am I. Neither is Ginger. Nobody's perfect. In fact, tonight
No,
before
I
we
am.
start, are you perfect? That's lovely. That's why I do. I think you're so great because you're so perfect. Um, Actually, I had a big mistake in this presentation, and we decided at the last minute to fix it. We were going to see if you noticed it. But this was ready to go, and there was a typo. And I'm a really good proofreader, and I don't like typos. But the point is that a college admissions officer isn't reading for perfection. They want 17-year-old voice. They don't want perfect. And I always say perfectly imperfect. So Christoph Dutentag, I'd say he's like the dean of all deans of college, but he's the dean of admissions at Duke. He's been there forever, and he's quite amazing. And when I'm done, Ginger will tell you about him because she worked with him for a while. But he says, you're a high school senior and you should sound like one, not your mom, not your dad, not your English teacher, and certainly not one of the most revered writers of all time. I wish I saw more of a thoughtful voice of a 17-year-old. Will it hurt you? I don't know. But the purpose of the essay is to help the student. And so you don't want to do anything that isn't going to help. So the words that a 17-year-old uses every day are the words that should be used in a college essay. The way you sound when if you were telling me a story about something you did yesterday, that's what these people want to see, that authentic you, the voice that you're using when you're not trying so hard to impress the person who may be reading it. Feel free to chime in, Ginger, anytime you want, or we can move on. It's up to you.
Well, I would certainly agree. I mean, I've known Christoph since the minute he arrived at Duke, because I was a senior when he got there, and served on the orientation committee with him before I even went to work in the admissions office. And you don't work in admissions if you don't love 17-year-olds. It's really exciting to hear their stories, and you want to hear it from them and their perspective. And I think the concept of voice, which you talk a lot about at WOW, I think is one that's really key and important for students to speak or write in their own voice. A really good way to check to make sure that you haven't taken too much good advice, well-intentioned advice from your parents or your guardians or your English teacher or anybody like that, is to try and read your essay out loud. One, it will help you catch typos. It's really terrific for that. And it will also help you know that you've written in your own voice with your own vocabulary, because you'll trip over things that are really unfamiliar to you. It's actually a psychology of language. Your brain is anticipating what's there, and if your mouth doesn't find what your brain was anticipating, they'll have kind of a little bit of argument, and that's how you flub up. If you've ever kind of seen someone who is reading off a teleprompter make a flub like a newscaster, it's probably because they didn't write what was there. So test yourself, make sure that your writing sounds like you and is authentic to you. And I can tell you, as someone who has read truly an outrageous number of essays, is that you really know what it sounds like for a 17-year-old to write, as opposed to kind of other voices to be inserted in that. And for a lot of parents, they don't have that same experience of reading 17-year-olds writing a lot. And so their tendency is to want to encourage their students to polish it and polish it and polish it, when in reality, it's being read alongside with lots of other essays, and you can really tell when one stands out for the wrong reasons, because it doesn't sound as authentic and genuine as a 17-year-old would.
That's true. Oh, another one. Impressive topics stand out. No, they don't. The student is impressive, not the topic. In fact, what we say at WOW is that topic's important, but the subject, which is the student writing it, is critical. This is about the student. And a lot of times, even with what we do, I have meetings with every single family who works with us before they start working with us. And I hear the parents telling me about all the great ideas that their child has been batting around for years. And I just smile because I don't want to make them feel bad. And I say, well, that's great. But the truth is, when a student comes to this process with a topic, focus on a topic, they don't really know why they want to write about the topic. And it's much more important, and we'll get into this later when I take you through the process. You'll see how we do things at WOW, to think about what it is that you want colleges to know. We always start with understand the prompt. First, you need to understand what it is you're going to be doing, and you have to look at the actual prompts. Then you pick one, and then you have to decide what it is that you want the colleges to know about you, what the trait or characteristics is, what's important to you, what do you value. And then after you can determine all that, find a topic that's going to help you illustrate what you want them to know. So students are fixated on these big, huge topics. I climbed this huge mountain when I was sick. Okay, but what does it show about you? So Calvin Wise, he's the director of recruitment for Johns Hopkins University. And he says, and he reminds you, the essay does not have to be about something huge or some life-changing event. Students think they need a monumental experience, but the essay can be about something small. And we call that mundane moments. They are so magical, mundane moments. Something that you can hold on to and illustrate something bigger about this thing up here, like, how does the child think? It's a thinking task almost as much as a writing task. Okay, your turn.
I think those are good points. My favorite essays were about very ordinary things. One of my very favorite ones of all time was about selling Girl Scout cookies. For the first
Mm,
time, there was a really good one about trying broccoli. There was one about playing hacky sack. They're really very small moments, very relatable for the person who's reading the essay to see you in their mind's eye, experiencing you and your story. I remember when I first went to Phillips Academy, which is a boarding school in Massachusetts, and was working there as a college counselor, one of my students said to me, "I'm 17, nothing really interesting has happened to me yet." And I said, "Yeah, your parents
mm.
were working pretty hard to make sure that was the case." You're writing about the ordinary moments of your life from your extraordinary and unique perspective is exactly what a college admissions officer wants to hear about.
It's true. I just read one about a kid who everything came easily to him and calculus kicked him in the tush. And he wrote about how he decided against getting a tutor and what he did to actually understand the calculus. It was a really beautiful story. Or we had one once about learning to mow the lawn with dad, or driving in a car with mom, having that conversation that was life changing, one little conversation. So, yeah, love those real stories from everyday life. That's it. Oh, this is my favorite. I have so many myths. I should bring more. So, there are four structures for the college essay. Pick one. Which do you like best? So we don't teach to a structure. We don't name structures. The truth is that if you pick a structure and try to write your essay to fit into any kind of template or structure, it's going to be stilted and boring, and it won't flow. So you want to just start with a topic. You want to start by understand, go through a process, and the structure will emerge as you write it and revise it. And the structure comes way later. So this is this is something I read about as well, where people tell you that. So at WOW, I wanted to tell you guys that it is what, almost September. We have two days. And a lot of our students are finishing. We work with a limited number of families every year, and we still have some spots. And if there's anybody here who is looking for help and you share our values and it's a good match, I want to talk to you. So let me know. But now I'm going to tell you about our secret. We have a process, a plan, and a schedule. It makes it so easy to get this done with minimal stress. I can't promise no stress because applying to college all by itself, the idea of it is stressful, especially in this world where so many students want to go to the same schools. And it's a simple matter of impossible math. They just aren't all getting in. So we try to keep it really calm. And it's the process and planning and scheduling that helps us do that. All right, can move on. So do essays really matter? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let Ginger talk about this because she is very good at this.
Everything they ask you for matters. Otherwise, they wouldn't ask you for it. So it just
Sure.
depends. I think the answer is really, as it always is for every college admissions question, is it depends. It does depend on where you're applying, what parts of the application will play the biggest roles. There are lots of different ways that it gets sliced at different schools and different programs. So I've read for Duke and for Emory. I've read for the Coca-Cola Scholars, which is a very prestigious scholarship program, and the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation as well. And so those are all really highly selective programs, and they have a similar approach in terms of kind of choosing some areas that readers are focusing in on as they review applications. Half of it is pretty quantifiable and half of it is not at all. So the quantifiable half is numeric, right? So that's the rigor of your courses. So how many hard classes you've taken versus how many are offered. That's what's numeric about that. Your grades, which is, we used to call it academic achievement when I was in admissions, which is just to say sort of how you're doing in the classes that you've taken, and standardized testing, if it's required or available. Those are the quantifiable parts of your application. And then the not so quantifiable parts would include things like letters of recommendation. If you had an interview, that would fall into that category as well. So those are people that you've chosen to speak on your behalf. The extracurricular activities, the things that you've been involved in outside of school, how you spend your time is incredibly important to getting to know you as a student. And then your essays, the one chance that you have to speak directly to the admissions committee. So it depends on where you're applying, what role each of those parts of your application play. The single most important piece of paper, I appreciate it's not actually paper anymore, but the single most important piece of paper in an application is always the transcript. So it's always the classes that you've taken and the grades that you've earned, your academic preparation for college. And then other things kind of come into play depending on the school, how many applications they receive, the way that they review applications, and the parts of the application that they ask for. But if they ask you for essays, they definitely want you to send them, and they're really using them as a chance to get to know you as a student, and to imagine what it is you'll do when you get to their school. I think a lot of people think of college admissions as a meritocracy, right? This is, sort of a prize that you've won because you've worked really hard. And in the end, the colleges aren't in on that at all. They want you to give, it's more like admissions is like a promissory note, right? This is an expectation of what you'll do when you get here. We don't want you to come exhausted. We want you to come excited and engaged and ready for the next step. So they're trying to extrapolate from the things that you've done in high school and the things that are important to you and you value to kind of determine from that what kind of student you're going to be on their campus and what kind of contribution are you going to make to their school and their community for the 4 years that you're there. So yes, they matter, I guess is the short answer.
Well, that's great. You're always great at this one. And they do matter, but what's also really interesting, Ginger, is that you could ask a room of 20 admissions people if they're more important now than they were before the pandemic. A third of them will say yes, a third of them will say no, and a third of them will say, well, maybe. So the answer is, we don't know how much we know they matter. They've always mattered. And if you just look at it as like every time you're asked to write an essay, look at it as an opportunity and not something horrible that you have to do. Because for this, you may not be getting a grade, you're getting something better. You're selling yourself, but you're showing them your mind. So yeah, they do. So this, my friends, this is a sample of a schedule that we use. It's kind of hard to see because it's tiny, small, but basically the Common App personal statement or the UT personal statement, but UT is now in the Common App. So a personal statement is our teaching essay. And I wanted to just show you this just so you could get an idea of it takes about 3.5 weeks to do the first essay with students. And then the supplements can go a little faster. But if you can see this, nobody spends 8 hours a day on Saturday and 8 hours a day on Sunday doing anything when working with us. It's crazy. We would never ask you that. We break everything down into really tiny, tiny steps. So you can see like the first draft, we say no more, don't spend any more than 2 hours on it because it's a draft. And then, so you can just get a little idea, a sneak peek into what the schedule looks like. And this is a godsend because I have the schedule, the student has a schedule, my coach has the schedule, and the minute, so for parents, the minute your child misses a deadline, you get an email like, oh, please check on your son or daughter, child. Be nice. We're always nice, but we like to keep everyone in the loop and we like to keep the students on track so they don't lose momentum and then get it done. And that's the approach. And it helps to see what to do when before you start. I wish teachers would do more of this.
It's a really great lesson also in breaking a big project down into small bite-sized pieces, right? There's an enormity of like, is it finished?
Yeah.
And asking smaller questions and celebrating those steps along the way are really powerful ways to help you get through a big thing, right? I think we need a better story than this, but they always say, like, how do you eat an elephant, right? Start with just one bite. I don't think you should eat an elephant. It's a majestic animal and it should live in the wild. But the notion is sort of like these big things that are just seem impossible are not if you just pick one thing to start with. And I think that's something that you coach students on when they're working with WOW. That's incredibly valuable. One thing I just wanted to interject, Kim, is just if people aren't yet familiar with the Common App, and you mentioned it, so there is something called the Common Application that's accepted by over 900 colleges and universities, mostly in the United States, but around the world. And there are several other application platforms as well that different schools can subscribe to. And so it's meant to make the application process a little bit easier for students so they don't have to fill out their name 8 times. If they're applying to 8 schools, they kind of fill it out one time and then share that common information with all the schools that they're applying to that are on that platform. The Common Application has been around for a really long time. So long that I applied using the Common Application. It is designed to make the lives of students, but especially teachers and counselors, a little bit easier. So if you haven't checked it out yet, it's commonapp.org is their website, and they do have a standard set of prompts for their Common Application essay. And that's what Kim was talking about, getting students started with.
I know, should assume as a former journalist, I shouldn't assume that you all know this stuff yet.
Begin at the beginning.
Yeah. So we have 10 steps to our process. And as you can see, so the first 6 steps here in the teal color are content. We start everything with understand the prompt, brainstorm ideas. And 3, we focus on theme. Nobody gets to go up and write an essay unless they know what they're writing about and why. We do a lot of free writing. So we have a step, an introduction where we do a free write, and that helps us see what your voice sounds like when you're not trying to impress. And then step 4 is a free write. And then step 5, you don't even write a draft until then. But these steps move pretty quickly. After that, we have step 6. This is the greatest step of all times, but it doesn't work on its own as part of the process. We don't write all over the essays. We don't use like red highlighters or red pens. We ask a lot of questions. And we read that first draft, looking to see, is anything missing? Is there a theme? Are there enough details? Does it show reflection? And then we'll pick 3 spots and send you a bunch of questions to answer. And that helps focus the content, fill in the gaps. And we have you do new opens so you can reimagine what it might look like if you started a different way. And then, because we want you to think like real writers, we have you review all your work before you write your second draft. Most of our students get through this in 3 to 4 drafts. So it works pretty well. Okay, next, now I'm going to take you through. So now I want to give you a little sneak peek at our process, just so that you can get an idea of how we do things at WOW. And then I think comes the free book offer. So we'll start with step 1, understand the prompt, but it's next. Next slide. Okay. So I said this earlier, but I want to repeat it because it's so important. We always start with understand the prompt. Let's say you're going to go for a job interview. Would you go for a job interview if you didn't know what the job was about? So you have to write a college essay, a personal statement. You need to know what they're asking and why. And I'm not saying you have to look at all of the 6 prompts or the 7 prompts, the free one at the end. I'm not saying look at every single prompt and parse it immediately. Yes, we have to do that. But you have to understand what the colleges are asking for in a college essay and why before you even think about it. So you want to say, what is the prompt asking? How does the essay fit into the application? What do readers know about you? What else do you want them to know? Step 1. That's really important. Okay. So we break apart all the prompts in our process and in our book. And since the current book doesn't have all the new prompts in it. We have that on our website, so you can find it if you want. So we parse everything, lots of different prompts. So the first one, which is a popular one, and that doesn't mean it's the one that anyone should pick. It's just it's the first one there, so I think people pick it. So some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that's so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If it sounds like you, then please share your story. So I'm going to ask you what the keywords are. You can raise your hand if you want to tell me, but we cheated a little bit because I highlighted them. So the keywords are meaningful and you, because what the college is wanting through your background story, your identity, interest, or talent is something meaningful that's focused on you. And then you'll share your story. Okay, now we're going to get to an example soon. After that, we ask our students to write down several ideas, be specific, list details. And then before we meet to brainstorm together, you already have some ideas. The student already sends us some ideas. Now, our expectation is not that we're going to get 4 brilliant ideas. It's a place to start to have a conversation, to validate whatever that student is interested in. And it really doesn't matter what the topic is, as long as they can show something meaningful. And we like to start where the student started. So an example is one of our students was a lifeguard and a little swim teacher one summer and was having a hard time teaching little Ellie how to swim because Ellie didn't want to put her face in the water. But all summer long, our student patiently just went and tried every day to get Ellie to put her face in the water. And it was frustrating and hard. And guess what? On the last day of camp, Ellie put her face in the water. So the student was so excited and had never really felt like a teacher before and had this beautiful story that showed how patient she was. She wanted to, how would colleges have known this? It's a small thing, not a story about the entire summer working as a lifeguard at your neighborhood pool or wherever it was. But it was one moment when Ellie put her face in the water for the first time ever, and how the student who taught her to do that felt about it. It was really, really quite beautiful. Small story illustrates something really meaningful. So
I love that story
next.
because it's focusing on the quality, right, that the student is sharing about themselves, which is patience. It's not
Mhm.
about swimming. It's not about teaching.
No, it's
It's
not.
about that quality of self. And so when somebody asks that your student what her essay is about, she'll say it was about my summer job, but really it was an essay about patience. And so that's, I think,
Well, we asked that. That's what we'll say. Well, what trait were you trying to show? Yeah,
that's what
that
you
is
ask.
what
I was
makes it
just thinking
good.
when your friend at school asks you what your essay is about, you might say, "Oh, it was about
Yeah.
my summer job." But you know, as the coach and the student knows, it's really about the quality that you wanted to share. It's really about patience.
Yep. And the best things that are written that you read, the shows you see on Netflix, they all show that. Any really good book, it's all focused on some trait or some characteristic. Each little scene in a book, they're small. You could spend a whole chapter writing about one thing. And that's the stuff that captivates us. Those small, tiny moments that show so much. I love it, actually. All right, so step 3, this isn't so confusing for students, but it sometimes confuses the professionals we're working with because then they have to go and teach it. So it's a whole different thing. But basically, a traditional personal statement is built around a theme. And in order to be effective, and we choose the word effective rather than good or exceptional, we don't judge the quality of the writing, it's the thinking. So to answer these 2 questions, what happened? What will the student write about in the essay? And why does it matter? What does the story say about you? So in the case of Ellie, it showed patience and other things, perseverance, patience, skill, leadership, whatever, lots of stuff. But patience was what our student wanted them to see. And so it was really an effective story because the what happened, the anchor moment was Ellie putting her face in the water. And why does that matter? Because I'm patient. I worked hard. The payoff was huge, right? Patience, patience, patience. So that's step 3, focus on theme. And instead of like having a big outline for the SAC, this says don't save random files in weird places. This is my sticky note. I use sticky notes. We say take a sticky note and put your theme on your computer. That's all you need. Boom. Step 4 is a free write. We'll have you focus only on what happens in your story. You just get all the details down. Don't need to worry about grammar or spelling. You can do bullets, you can write. That's it. And then after step 4, you write your first draft. And now we can tell you what not to do. College essay do's and don'ts. So these, should I tell them this is where the typo was? It was college. There was no O, but we caught it. These are college essay do's for students. And I also have some for parents. So follow the instructions, answer the prompt. You know, so often students don't answer the prompt, that if all you do is answer it, you're going to stand out. Check the prompt's word limit, character limit. That's really important because like on the Common App, it says 250 words minimum, 650 words max. So it has to be over 250 and it cannot go over 650. Okay, it's really important. And every single application that you'll find tells you exactly how long it should be and how to submit it. There are instructions, read the instructions. And that's a question I get every time I do a presentation. And I tell you, you don't have to ask me that. There are instructions, and it's critical that you guys read instructions. You're going to have to in college, you're going to have to your senior year, your whole life, you have to read instructions. Write about yourself. You're impressive. Focus on you. Explore why your story matters to you and only you. Again, not to be redundant, but not your mom, not your dad, not your sibling, not your best friend who got into Harvard. Doesn't matter. It's what's important to you. Show insight into your character. Demonstrate reflection. You don't have to go that deep, only as deep as you can go. You don't have to, and we always say this too, it's don't report, reflect. This isn't the place to solve all your problems. Do share something meaningful that colleges do not already know about you. Illustrate a positive trait. There aren't a lot of mistakes you can make in a college essay other than having somebody else do it for you, copying something, or writing something really negative. They don't like that. Positive, positive, positive. Write the essay yourself. You can get help, but no one should write it for you. No one should tell you what words to use. None of that. Right? I think I've just done all the don'ts too. Write it in your own voice using the words you use every day and check spelling and grammar before you click send. And you're the final grammar checker and spelling checker. Do not put that on someone else. And I think, I guess I can repeat some of these. It'll remind you. So don't write about someone else. Don't write about your great Aunt Rose who saved 6 orphans in a burning house fire and you want to be just like her. Because colleges will want Aunt Rose to apply to college, not you. Don't focus on your accomplishments or experiences. They already know that. They already know what you've done. You've got a resume and you've got a list of activities. You've got teachers who will write recommendations saying how wonderful you are and what you've accomplished. No. And again, don't write something negative. Don't write something you think colleges want to read or something someone else told you they want to read. Don't plagiarize or let anyone write it for you or a piece of it. Don't imitate sample essays you find in books or on the internet, to which I want to say, don't even read them, but you will. So please don't imitate them. No one can copy your voice. No one, no one, no one. And you can't copy someone else's. They won't help you write a good story about yourself. You can read a book, but don't read all those sample essays. Don't believe everything you read. There are no gimmicks, tricks, or shortcuts to help you master the essay. Don't repeat the question to your answer or overuse those buzzwords like passion, grit, leadership. Those won't kill you. I just don't like them. They bore me. And they don't add to your story. You have to make every word count. And spell checker or grammar checker, those things make so many mistakes. So I also want to share my do's and don'ts for mom and dad and other adults who parent children. So it's okay to help children parse prompts, discuss what they mean and what colleges want. In fact, we do that. Our students know what the prompt is asking. That's not necessary for them to do. So you can do that with your students. And if you don't know how, you can look in my book or on my website, and we've done it all for you. You can brainstorm ideas with your child only if you are asking the questions and listening. You have to zip it. You can't tell them what to write. So that's something that's very hard for parents, but if you can do it, who am I to tell you not to, right? Who loves them as much as you do? It's okay. You can provide a brief overview for your children of the essay significance within the process. You can use the word, I always use the word opportunity. So just keep saying opportunity. You can also help your child come up with like positive traits. You can have a conversation in the car, at the dinner table. It's a continuous conversation. So my favorite example is, let's say your child goes and takes the trash out every week for the neighbor whose husband died a year ago, and just doesn't you can point out to your child that that's just a really kind gesture and that you appreciate it. And you can start asking like why do you do it? Give me some other ideas of times when you've done something kind for someone else. Why don't you bring attention to yourself? Anything that you see, it's so much better than screaming at your child to take out your trash. It works. You get so many good parent points when you tell them how great they are too. Trust me. And you can use we have a finding your voice free writing activity that you could probably use with your child. I can send it to, I can get it for you. If somebody wants it, just email me at kim@wellwritingworkshop.com. But also remember that it's just a free writing activity. And on its own, it's not going to help your child write a better essay, but it is important that your child know what their voice sounds like. And again, be like a cheerleader, not a coach. Offer encouragement. The biggest job for mom and dad is just be supportive and positive, because when we as parents, and I mean, I'm a parent, so I know a little bit about this. When we tell our kids or when we tell our children something negative, they just they can't get beyond that. We lose them, and it's hard to get it back. Yeah, don't tell them what prompt to select. Don't tell them what trait is best. Don't tell them what to write. Don't write it. Don't be discouraging. And then let's get a free book. So let's do this. It's our gift to you. Download it, get it, parse the prompts, and look at the website too for some. We have a lot of blogs that have a lot of information about the prompts and the new prompts. We parse the why this college essay and a bunch of the different prompts, so you can get that. And then I think we have about 7 minutes for questions, so we'd like to do that. And again, if anybody still needs help, kim@wellwritingworkshop.com. We'll see if we're a match.
So we have some great questions coming in, Kim. So I hope we'll be able to cover them all. So let's start with this one. Can I write an essay about something that I participated in 8th grade, or was that too long ago?
I'm going to do a ginger answer. That depends. You can start with that. And it's not going to be about something from 8th grade. It's going to be about something that was meaningful. And I'm going to guess that if something was really meaningful that happened in 8th grade, there might be a more modern version of it in 11th grade. So it's a good place to start. And it depends. It really does just depend. I don't encourage it, but with COVID taking away some of the high school years for this class, it was like freshman year and a little bit of sophomore year. So maybe because that was before COVID. So it just depends.
I'll tell you,
What do you say to that, Ginger?
admissions officers love an origin story. You're the superhero of the application, and we love to hear where your superpowers come from. So I think probably it depends part is if you're just trying to say like the greatest thing I ever did happened in 8th grade and I haven't done anything since then, that's probably not a perfect story. But if the spark came from that moment and it has fueled you since then that is a terrific way to introduce an admissions officer to what it is that's driving you and the things that you're doing. So it could be really fantastic. Is a different version of it depends, I guess. How about this one? Let's get more specific about what a negative trait is. So can I write about things like shyness or uncertainty, or are those negative traits?
Oh, that's not a negative trait. If you're shy and you have something meaningful that happened to you that dealt with it, I don't think, let me explain negative. Once upon a time, we had a student who hated his father and wrote an entire essay about how much he hated his father. And the trait was, I don't even know what it was. I'm not that nice. I'm mean. I hold grudges. And it took a lot to let him see that he could turn that around. If you have something that appears to be negative, we help students turn it into positive. Like anything that sounds negative can become positive. But if you're shy and you like took the lead on a group project, that's really positive, right? That shows something else, that even though I'm shy or an introvert, I really rose to the occasion. So I don't think anything that you just said was negative. Negative is like, I have really bad dreams and I want to kill somebody. I mean, this isn't the place for that. Or my sister's always been really mean to me, but I'm nice. What are you telling me? You just want to make sure that the overall message, you have to think about the reader. What is that reader going to know about me? Well, I got bullied and I didn't do anything about it. It doesn't show anything. It's just like a negative story. You want everything to be positive about you. So, but
And I think
shy
the world
is
needs quiet
okay.
people. I think the world needs quiet people. You don't, it's not all about
Yeah,
extroverts sort of winning the day in leadership. So telling your
right.
quiet story your way. All right, need to go lightning round, Kim. Ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Is it okay to discuss challenges that may not be positive, but resulted in a positive trait change?
Absolutely.
Is religion a sensitive topic? Would writing, for example, about how religion affected my perception as a child be off-putting to an admissions reader?
If it is, don't go to that school. One of the best essays I ever read was about a boy who wasn't sure about what his beliefs was in a religious school, raised his hand in class one day and said, "Hello, Mr. Preacher. I'm not sure I believe in God." Guess what happened? Whole class started having this great discussion about their beliefs. This kid was never a leader. He felt like a leader. It was a beautiful story. It wasn't about religion. It was about questioning his belief in God, and it showed it positively. Absolutely. I have no issues writing about any of that stuff. There are ways to write about challenging situations, and it's always to make sure that you answer the prompt and that your story is focused on a trait that's important to you, and that you have a story that's meaningful and has reflection. Boom. Great story idea.
Do admissions officers use keyword searches similar to firms that are looking for new personnel to employ?
I read about that. I wouldn't worry about that, and I don't think so.
No, I'll tell you. No. How long does an admissions officer spend reading an essay? Is a 550-word essay too long?
Well, the essay's length depends on the instructions. But it's like 5 to 10 minutes each essay, maybe less. Is that about right?
I mean, that's the whole application. So the essay
Oh,
is
so 4 minutes, 3 minutes.
pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick, but you get really good at it if you do. I can assure you of that.
3 minutes, boom, lightning round. Let's see what else we can do.
Can my counselor and teachers who are writing my recommendations see my college applications in the common application?
If you have to invite them to look at
Right.
it.
You'd have to invite them to be an advisor and then they could, but without your permission, they cannot. My daughter wants to write about my mother who recently passed and how she inspired her. What are your thoughts on that topic?
Oh, I'm so sorry that you lost your mother. It sounds to me like it might be too soon. I would say write about it. I'd love to read it. If she inspired her and she can actually pull it off and it's all about your daughter, it's going to be okay. It sounds it's too soon. I would send that student to the counselor to talk about that, but it might be too soon.
And just make sure that you're writing an essay about yourself as the student, rather than an essay about your grandmother, who I'm sure was an amazing human and the world was blessed to have her. Yeah. How do you feel about mentioning learning disabilities in a common application essay?
I don't think that's the question. And it's really important to just answer the question. If you have to think about what you want colleges to know about you. If you want them to know you have a learning disability, that's up to you. But I've never heard someone with a learning disability say yes to that. So what do you want them to know? What are your traits and characteristics? What's important to you? I don't think you're going to get extra points for telling them that in your Common App essay. There is a place on the application where you can share all that kind of information. So that is absolutely it. It depends, but you always have to make sure that you're answering the prompt that's being asked.
Well, we're out of time. We're at the end of the hour. And so the question I would like to end with is, I think, a really darling one, which is, how should I begin my essay?
The way you begin an essay is to ask yourself these two questions. First, you have to make sure that you know what the colleges are asking about. You have to understand the prompt. And then you need to decide what it is that you want colleges to know about you and what you'd like them to know when they're done reading your story. So that's the first step, is to figure out what you want them to know. Focus on those traits and characteristics. And then that's where you start. And then after that, you go to then you brainstorm the ideas. And then sometimes the ideas are different from what you thought. So always start by answering the prompt, understand the prompt. First place to start. Forget the topic, understand the prompt. What else you got, Miss Ginger?
Thank you, Kim. We're out of time. I'm grateful for your insights and conversation, and I know that our audience will appreciate the book that you're sharing. If we can be of help to you, either if Kim and her team at WOW Writing Workshops can be of help to you, or if we at Appleruth can help support your student as they're learning and growing, we're honored and thrilled to be part of that journey. This recording will be heading to everyone who registered, so you'll get to enjoy that hopefully before the end of the week. And we'll look forward to all the great essays that you will write and the adventures that you have ahead of you. My mom told me when I was young, you're unique like everyone else. So be uniquely yourselves and trust.
I like that.
You can write about it too.
Trust yourself, trust yourself, trust yourself. And guys, if anybody has any questions, and I don't mean to say guys, if anybody has any questions, email me, kim@wowwritingworkshop.com. Love to hear from you, and good luck on your journey. I want this to be an exciting time for you, not all stressful. So, agree, Ginger?
I do.
Yes.
Good night and good luck. We wish you all the best.